Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever time it is that you inky savages are joining us here for episode number 177 of the PenBoyRoy Pentertainment Podcast. We've been gone for a few weeks, primarily because I was on vacation, I was in Paris, and then on top of that, my co-host Tom, as he can attest to, has had a very, very busy work and home life schedule due to the Gold Spot catalog coming out soon, right, Tom?
Yes.
It's
been a bear of a time.
Right. It's been a bear of a time. I never heard that saying before, but that's cool. So he's been working on this catalog. He's been working on work stuff and then soccer stuff for the family stuff. So we've just been very busy.
We'll go into it more.
We'll go into it more.
Stuff.
But speaking of Gold Spot, check out the affiliate link in the description below for all cool stuff that you can buy at Gold Spot Pens. And use coupon code PARIS at checkout for additional savings on most of the products on the Gold Spot websites, with some brand exclusions applying. Again, the coupon code is PARIS, P-A-R-I-S, as in the place that I was in vacation. I love Paris. It's just such a wonderful place to be. It's a lot of fun, a lot of places to eat non-keto foods, which I did in surplus, but didn't gain any weight. As a matter of fact, I lost weight. It's crazy.
Nice.
And I think it has to do with the fact that France has food that doesn't use like 80 chemicals in it. Like, for example, Dannon yogurt in Paris is like 5 ingredients. And it's in a glass jar with a foil lid. Dannon yogurt in the U.S.
processed stuff here. Yeah.
Right. Dannon yogurt in the U.S. has like 60 ingredients. Like 40 of those ingredients I can't pronounce, which doesn't surprise me because I can't pronounce a lot of stuff, even if they're 4-letter words. But anyway, yeah, so coupon code PARIS at checkout for an additional savings on all products on the Gold Spot website. Now, what I also want to talk about is our friends over at Luxury Brands of America. They are the distributors of awesome brands, namely the Benu brand. The Benu brand is out of Armenia, and they are launching a Halloween Harvest fountain pen. Okay, I'm going to read it. The famous holiday of trick-or-treating, lighting bonfires, and dressing up is upon us. It's true, it's upon us, because right now it's September 30th, and
it started since July, to be honest, because that's when the stores started putting Halloween stuff on the racks. So it's upon us. It's in full swing now.
Right, but that directly conflicts with what I'm trying to read here. It's all right. So let me finish reading before Bryce kicks our butt. All right. And Halloween Harvest is the perfect pen to celebrate, right? And here's why. No high fructose corn syrup, no sugar, no maltodextrin, no dextrose. This piece is crafted using a combination of dramatic black and traditional jack-o'-lantern colors to truly set the mood. And in true Benu style, it comes complemented with a dash of fire-like sparkles. What Benu pen is a Benu pen if not for the sparkles, right? Produced as a limited edition with just 500 pens worldwide. Geez, that's not a lot of pens. Each pen is supplied with a certificate of authenticity confirming its serial number, signed by Benu's owners. That's kind of cool. I like that certificate thing. Kind of not necessary. Kind of really like, I don't think anybody's going to make a fake Benu pen, right? But it looks like fire. But the thing is
that because it's limited, I think they want to reinforce the idea of its limitedness and its exclusivity. It's like it comes with a signed card.
Sure, but then why didn't they do that with any of the other limited editions?
Because your hand gets tired after signing it for so many times, I guess.
Well, maybe not if they're using a fountain pen. If they're using a ballpoint pen, yes. But if you're using a fountain pen, guess what? I don't think it would be as tiring. The MSRP on this pen is $155, available at your favorite retailer, online or in store if you're lucky enough to have a store that has it in store near you. But if you're going to purchase it, please purchase it at Gold Spot Pens, because every purchase at Gold Spot Pens helps out the Pentertainment Podcast and the Pentertainment Studios. Making sure to use the affiliate link in the description below and using coupon code PARIS. I love Paris. Anyway, that is all we have for sponsorships this week. Oh, wait. There's another one. Whenever introducing the new... So there's another read. It's not dated, so I think he wants us to talk about this one also. But he wants me to also talk about the Retro 51 Rainforest Rollerball Pen, right? So this
I
is
thought
kind
they
of
were
cool.
almost done with that.
I don't know. It's here unless it's a mistake. So there's a Retro 51 Rainforest pen. It has a cute little frog on the finial, and the whole thing is covered in rainforesty stuff.
Tropical decorations, parrots,
Right.
leaves,
Okay, so
fun stuff.
with animals of the rainforest wrapping around the pen and a tree frog perched on the finial, the Retro 51 is sure to the Retro 51 is sure to be one of a kind. Here's the great part, though. Here's the part that I really respect. A portion of the proceeds from the purchase of the pen will be donated to the Rainforest Trust to help protect endangered animals and landscapes around the world, limited to 500 individually numbered pieces worldwide. You can purchase them directly at luxurybrands.usa.com/product/retro51. That link will be in the description below. Please make that purchase because you're helping frogs and animals and rainforests.
And just please be advised that that's different than the Gold Spot thing.
Right.
They don't accept coupon codes to do their thing over there. So
Right. So it's just full retail price, whatever their retail price is. And
for luxury brands.
right. And make this purchase because it helps out rainforests. And just to put things into perspective, how many times has your day been ruined by a rainforest existing? 0 times in your life did you wake up, go to get your coffee, and a rainforest smacked it out of your hand and said, no coffee for you, right? But how many times in life is a rainforest day ruined because of us? Many. So let's try to reverse that. Right? I made that
excellent.
up right now. So
I
anyway,
love it.
yeah. So please make your purchases at the Gold Spot pens using the affiliate link for the Benu pen, and please make your purchase of the Retro 51 Rainforest pen directly at the directly at the Luxury Brands USA website. That will be provided in the link below. Now, I have some stuff I want to talk about, namely the Pilot Custom 91 with the FA nib. So
it's a 912, isn't it? We're talking F90 91.
What did I just say?
Right. You said the 91.
Did I say 91? I meant 912.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
Sorry.
yes. That's
I was
the
like,
one I asked
did
you
I
to
get the
prepare.
right pen?
Yeah. No, that's the one I asked you to prepare. The 912 with the FA nib. I really want to talk about this pen because it's a very interesting and unique pen. So stay tuned. After the introduction, we are going to be discussing the Pilot Custom 912 with the FA nib. But before we get started, I want to give you guys a quick disclaimer. This podcast is not scripted and therefore will contain potty mouth words both from Tom and I. Tom, you better curse and not make me look bad in this one. So be forewarned. You have been warned. Now, on to the podcast.
Fuck.
PenBoyRoy Entertainment Podcast. Stay savage.
All right, so like I said, we are back. If I'm a little bit hyper, realize I have been off of keto for about 3 weeks because of my vacation to Paris, and then having come back, my wife and I just kind of extended our diet breaking. And what I do notice is, and I've talked about it before, when I eat carbs and I don't eliminate carbs, my ADHD kicks back in full force. So I might be a little hyper. I might have a little ADHD, and that's fine, right? Because in a couple of weeks, I'll just be mellowed out a little bit more. But enough of that. What I really want to talk about, and I've been using this pen a lot recently, because, as you know, Tom, I have been addicted with the whole... My cats are meowing at me from outside the door. What was I saying?
You've been addicted to drawing.
Right, I've been addicted to drawing.
I'm doing a lot of illustrations lately. Comic book characters.
Yes.
All that fun stuff.
I've been doing a lot of illustrations lately, and I've been doing a lot of penciling, and I've been doing a lot of inking. And holy shit nuggets, man, I have to tell you, inking is really the harder part of drawing, I think, because pencils, you can hide a lot of shit, right? You scratch something out with a pencil, and, you kind of just rough over it. But when you're doing inking, that's the final layer, and all the pencils are going to be erased. So any and all flaws will be exposed. Now,
absolutely.
I also have been using a lot of brush pens by Tombow. I've been using inking pens by Sakura, the micron pens.
Pigma microns, yeah.
Right. However, it's like when I use them, yes, they are effective, especially the hard tip Tombow brush pen. It really feels like a pointed felt tip pen. And you can get some line variation on it, right?
Yeah.
It's really effective for comic book drawing. However, I do want to say that when I use those disposable pens and not fountain pens for inking stuff,
Right.
I feel like I'm cheating on my wife. I swear to, like, that's what it feels like. I feel like my pens are in the background looking at me.
You feel dirty and just
Yeah, yeah. So
unfaithful.
when we were talking to Kreese about why he doesn't use fountain pens, he's worried about the spatter. Fountain pens don't do that. He's talking about dip pens. He's talking about like the zebra dip nibs and stuff like that. So, or the calligraphy things. They're very tinny. They're very thin. They spread really easily. So as you're drawing, it'll catch the paper. Even something as smooth as Strathmore 300 Bristol board, it'll catch and it'll like spatter. So yeah, I don't use those, but fountain pens don't. So even like especially steel nibs. Now even flexible nibs with very soft nibs like the Pilot Falcon the Pilot Custom 912 with the FA nib. Even that one, using it on like cheaper paper, I still didn't get it to spatter or the tines to spread and then spring and then flick ink.
Right.
But being that I've been using this pen for inking and I've been using the Platinum Churro, how do you call that new super dark? Chukuro. I've been using that. I was thinking about the utility of this pen, not just for drawing, but as well as for writing, because at work I have to sign a lot of cheap copy paper. I have to do a lot of things and stuff like that. So I want to talk about this pen. I want to give you my thoughts on this fountain pen. I also want to hear, Tom, your thoughts on this fountain pen, which is why I asked you to prepare one and bring it home with you from work. All right.
Should I get it inked up?
Are you allowed to, or
I can.
I mean, you don't have to, because I don't think we are able to do.
See, I think what might be a useful point of comparison is that I have an 823 with an FA nib. And I have it with the flexible nib factory feed on it. So I think it might be a nice comparison just to
I think it would have been if you didn't have a altered feed. Because I'm pretty sure people aren't going to get that. So if they want a comparison, I'm pretty sure they're going to want a comparison with the stock feed so that they can see if there's a difference in terms of railroading or skipping.
Well, also, the 823 with the FA configuration is not one that's readily available from Pilot. It's only the 912 or the 743 you could get the FA nib. You can't get it on 823, too. So it's kind of a one-off sort of thing, which is why it ended up finding its way to me, because I've been always jonesing for this combination. And I've always said to Pilot, I was like, I will be your first customer if you decide to put the 823 with an FA nib. But they have yet to
why would they listen?
Put their brain cells together for that.
Right, why would they listen, right? So let's not compare them. Let's save that for a different time. Please put in the comments below or email us at pentertainmentpodcast@gmail.com if you do want to see that comparison, but keeping in mind that it has a custom feed. It doesn't have the actual Pilot stock feed in it. But we're going to talk about the Pilot Custom 912 with the FA nib. Now, real quick, what I want to talk about with this pen is very executive looking. It's I'm a boss. I put the pen in my shirt. When I take it out, I'm the guy in charge. I unscrew it.
The clip kind of looks like a gladius, like one of those swords that you would see, for back in the Roman swords sort of thing, right?
Well, I agree and disagree. I agree that it looks like a sword. I think it looks like Link's master sword.
Okay,
right?
Fair enough.
From the Legend of Zelda. Now, this pen is really satisfying when you cap and uncap it. It has a very smooth capping. It's 1.5 rotations and it has a very snug stop. What I wanted to ask you about, and I know you know this more than I do, is the number of stars, right? So on the center band, there's 2 stars on this pen. Can you explain to me why this one has 2 stars and there are others that have 3 stars, 4 stars, 1 star? Based on the look on your face, I think you can't. Right?
The one that I'm looking at here does not have any stars on the center band.
Yeah, it does. It has the stars between 912 and Pilot Made in Japan. Look at it.
I'm trying to look at it in the light, and
You don't shine the light straight into the camera. You're shining the light straight into the camera.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get a good angle. I can't
but
see
look,
anything.
It's right here. It's right there. Do you see?
But do you see? I see no stars.
Oh,
My camera's not as good as yours, but I see no stars on this thing.
Okay.
I see
All right,
I see Custom Heritage 912, Pilot Japan, and it's filled in, is what you're saying. So you're saying that these stars are filled in with black. Like
Yeah.
there's not just engraving impression.
Look.
No,
can
I
you
don't.
see?
I don't have those on here. It must
Oh,
be
wow.
because it's this might be.
Mine is a few
newer
years
thing.
old.
They got rid of that.
Yeah, mine is a few years old, so I didn't know why there were some stars on some models, and then like I think higher end pens have more stars, and I think that's why. But listen, my pen. What does your pen come with? Because yours is a newer model. Mine came with the converter, the pump
The
converter.
Con 70, the
Con
push
70.
button. Yeah.
Right. So I want to tell you what's awesome about this pen. What's awesome about the custom 912 with the FA nib is the quality of the pen. Now, when it comes to Japanese pens, and I was talking about this with a coworker the other day, the Japanese pens, they don't really seem to go too in depth when it comes to the build material, right? So they'll use injection molded plastic. They'll use plastic that's not like really nice resins like you see in Leonardo's. You don't see these nice resins and whatnot. They make solid, really well done injection molded bodies. But where they really do focus their energies on, I believe, is in the nibs. And I think Pilot makes some of the best nibs on the market. And
It's seriously real good.
Yeah. And it has such a unique winged look. It has these scallops cut out on the sides. And I love how the nib looks. This one is a 14 karat gold FA nib. Now, what I like about the FA nib is the tip size. It's in between, in my opinion, it's in between a Japanese fine and a medium, which is kind of just like a European fine, right? And that's when you're writing normally.
Yes.
When you're writing with a little bit pressure, it goes to a, like I said, in between medium and fine, Japanese fine, to about just a little broader than a medium. But what I don't like about it is it certainly railroads very quickly. The feed does not keep up, right? Now, I've heard people talk about it and say, well, the reason why that is because you're supposed to write at certain angles because it's designed for Japanese calligraphy and whatnot. I'll be honest with you, I don't know any Japanese calligraphy. I barely know American English calligraphy. So that doesn't do me any use. So what I find myself using this pen is for just regular, normal writing. I don't use this pen really for flex writing. It's not a flex nib. It's almost a semi-flex nib. For regular writing, very bouncy, very wet, and I really like it. It keeps up when I'm doing regular writing. Does it keep up when I'm doing normal writing? Not at all. I'm sorry, when I do in flex writing? Not a chance. It doesn't do it in the least bit. Now, I've talked about this next thing several times in the past, and it's when I'm talking about the Con 70 converter. I love the Con 70 converter because of its ink capacity. But Tom, can you guess why I don't like the Con 70 ink converter?
Because as I was just trying to do it before, as you were seeing, it wasn't really... I mean, my ink level in the Leonardo bottle that I have here is kind of on the lower side. Mm-hmm. So I had to tilt it to try to get it, but it wasn't that great in being able to fill it. Like, I maybe got like a little less than maybe a quarter or something like that. And I'd have to keep pushing it over and over again just to see if I could get enough suction on it. But
yeah, I find that if you just keep pumping that little pump action converter, it'll eventually fill it up to 90%. The reason why I don't like this converter is because cleaning it is such a pain in the butthole. Now, the reason why is because anybody who's cleaned this converter can sympathize. You'll dunk it in water, you'll spray it, you'll fill the section and the converter with water, squirt it out, shake it, and then ink magically keeps appearing, right?
yeah.
There is a solution to it that requires you to have a blunt point crackhead syringe, okay? Now, I drew a little diagram here, and I want you to just pay attention. For everybody watching, if you're not watching, then just try to follow along as best as possible. So this little diagram here that I'm showing you, this is just a really quick sketch I did with a pencil. Imagine this end here that I'm pointing to, that's the
Open.
the
That's
open
the open
end.
end that connects with the front section.
Right, the open end that connects with the front section. Now, inside, what makes this whole converter work is the little metal stick inside
Yes.
the converter.
Right.
Now, that stick is not solid. That stick is like a tiny metal straw. And over here in the center, I just really roughly drew in the plunger, right? So every time you pump this converter in a bottle of ink, it sucks up ink because of this little metal straw,
Okay.
right?
Right.
And then what ends up happening is ink gets trapped in that little metal straw.
Right.
And then when you're done with the converter and you wash it out, ink keeps staying inside that converter. So every time you go and you shake the converter after you think it's clean, it's just going to
It's
keep
just gonna-
magically producing more ink.
that hidden ink inside that tiny straw is just going to
Right.
keep getting out in there.
The solution to cleaning out this converter completely and totally, without exception, and works every single time, is you have to take a syringe, the blunt point syringe, and spray water directly into that metal straw. If you do that, you'll clean out the converter, and then there won't be any more magical ink production. This kind of looks like a weird, like, penis. This drawing I did. But anyway, that's how you clean it. You know what I mean? So I love this pen. I think it's great. I think it's great for regular writing. However, I have to also say, though, I think I would have been happier without the FA nib if I had a regular fine point nib.
I was just flexing with it.
Yeah, but that's not fair, dude. You just filled it up, so it's super saturated. You know what I mean?
I'm working it out. I'm trying to see if I could get it to railroad. So as you could hear, I don't know if you could hear me scritching on there, dear listener, but that's what me. But I do agree with you though, because what I really like about I've been using the 823 with the FA, and what I thoroughly enjoy about that is that despite the fact that it can flex for me, I can just write with it as a regular fine nib.
Right.
And when I do write with it as a fine nib, it is so smooth.
Yeah.
It's such a smooth nib for a fine point, for being Japanese too, because Japanese like Platinum, Sailor tend to be a bit of a rough rider when you get to the finer end of the spectrum there. So you feel a lot of that scritch,
Right.
you know, which is nice for some. Me, I tend to want my nibs to be a bit smoother, and I think this is the happiest of the two worlds for me when it comes to a fine nib that can not only write smoothly, but then can also give me that bit of embellishment when I want to. So it really is a beautiful nib.
I want to just elaborate on something that I said before. I said I like this pen very much. However, I would have probably enjoyed it more if I had a regular Pilot fine nib in here instead of the FA nib. And the reason there's a few reasons for that, right? Me, I like stiffer nibs. Unless it's a full-blown Flex Nib, right? So when I write with this regular writing, the FA nib, I find that there is slight line variation when I didn't mean for it to be that way.
Okay.
And the reason why that's not good in my situation is because I use my pens at work, and a lot of times at work you have cheap copy paper or notebooks or logs that you have to write in that have cheap paper. So I don't want line variation because it causes bleeding, it causes going through the page, or signatures are bleeding through the page and stuff like that. So in my case, I would like for it to just be more consistent and more stiff. If you're the type of person that likes a very, very, very slight sprinkle of line variation in your writing, and you like the softness of it and the bounciness of it, then the FA nib would be for you. But if you're like me and you're using it strictly as a utilitarian tool, does that make sense? But if you're using it just for its efficacy for daily writing, it's probably not the best one. It's probably not the most practical.
Well, that's why
Now-
the 912 comes in such a great variety. Is because you get that same executive sort of style, and then put a variety. That's like, I think they make them 15 different sizes. The
What do you mean?
912 now, 15 different tips, like besides the FA, you have Extra Fine, Posting, Waverly, Music. There's tons of different nibs in that set.
Let me ask you something. Does the different sizes of the nibs affect the price?
No, same price, everything.
Same price
Pretty
across
neat.
the board. Oh, that is pretty cool, right? You would expect that maybe like a Waverly or a
The specialty
FA would,
type,
would cost
be
a little
expensive, but
Yeah.
that's why you guys give props to Pilot, because they do it, and they do it economically. Whereas a lot of the other brands, if it's anything outside of the normal fine, medium, broad, they're going to be like, pay up.
Right. Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I was also talking about using this pen. I use this pen a lot for drawing and stuff like that. And that's kind of like where it probably comes in handy a little more than when I'm writing, because of the line variation that it gives you, right? Because in drawing and inking, you need different types of line weight to accentuate like darknesses and shadows and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And when you're drawing and you're inking, you're not doing it as fast as you're writing in script. So I find that when it comes to inking and drawing, this pen is fantastic, especially for like comic book art. And I just scribbled up here, if you're looking, a bunch of hash lines. You know, some are tapering, some are just straight, and then I just drew some lumps, almost looks like knuckles, and added line weight to it. So when I'm drawing stuff and I'm inking it, it actually is really effective. And I really enjoy it. So this is the solution to... I can use this pen instead of using like the Tombow hard tip brush pen for inking. The only caveat is what Chris said, is he's right. The ink, and I'm using the Kurchuro, it's called.
Okay.
The
Chukuro. The black is black.
It does take a bit longer to dry. And since it does take a bit longer to dry, I have to wait for it to completely dry before I take the eraser and erase away the pencils.
Right.
You know, and I'm talking about like one time I waited 4 hours and it's still smeared.
Ooh.
Yeah. So like I literally have to, because think about it, the top, like think about it in layers, right? You put down a line of ink of fountain pen ink. The top layer dries first because it's exposed and creates a crust. Like think about it on a microscopic level. It creates a crust, and underneath that crust is still slightly viscous ink that is still trying to dry, but it can't because the top layer dried first. Right. Now, 4 hours later, that bottom layer is still there. You might not smear it, you know, if you're lightly rubbing across with your finger or something like that, but when you're taking a rubber eraser and you're deliberately trying to get the pencils underneath that ink, you're going to break that top top layer, almost like a scab of ink, and underneath is going to be the ink that is trying to dry out. And especially on paper that's ink resistant, like the Strathmore, what do you call it, Bristol board, or
boards.
Any type of the endless papers, right? Those papers don't absorb the ink like tissue paper, and it doesn't, then the paper doesn't dry, right? So it's just sitting there until it cements on it.
Well, I'm curious to know as well, there's probably some articles out there. I think Jeff Pence has got a pretty good one about black inks and comparing the various dry times of them, if there's maybe a black permanent ink that dries quicker. That might be worth, because a Chukuro could be a very dark, rich black ink,
right?
But it doesn't dry very quickly. But there could be a black ink that, while not being as rich, dark black as Chukuro, could dry quicker and be better suited for the purposes of what you're using in illustration.
Right. It's not just the Chukuro though. Like I was inking drawings with Noodler's black. And that one also takes a bit of time to dry.
Yeah.
Right? I also tried Carbon Black. That one takes
a fair amount.
Yeah. I also tried Montblanc Mystery Black. That one is quickest to dry, but the easiest to, like, it'll be dry, but as you erase,
the black will come up with it too?
Yeah. It picks off the ink off the page. It doesn't smear it, but it kind of takes it off the page.
Would you ever consider, let's say, doing your own comic book, just even if it was for yourself, like just drawing your own comic panels and stuff. Are you going to be going to that level, or do you think you're just going to be doing a lot of just just different illustrations of superheroes?
You know my personality, Tom. When I do stuff,
Once the rabbit hole has been engaged, it goes down as far as it could go.
So what I'm doing right now is I have a plan. I have a 4-year plan, right? Because I think you know this. In about 4 or 5 years, I'm retiring, right? And when I retire, I want to do something creative as a career, because I'm not going to stop working. But I'm going to retire from the career I'm at, and I'll have a very comfortable pension. And I want, like my good friend Carrie Yeager said, I want the second half of my life, I want to really
be like
enjoy
Benjamin
it.
Franklin, because he did most of the stuff that he's known for after he retired.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, you learn something new every day. So what I want to do is I want to somehow be involved in arts. I want to be involved in the fountain pen industry, community, somehow, whatever it is. I don't know what it is yet, as an influencer, as an artist, whatever. So my 4-year plan is this. For the next year, I am obsessively studying anatomy, facial anatomy, body anatomy. I'm drawing like skeletons. I'm drawing people as geometric shapes and tubes and stuff like that. Right?
Okay.
Then I was thinking the second year I'm going to really focus on perspective, like 1.2, 0.3 point drawings, landscape drawings, buildings and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
And
some
then
urban sketching.
Yeah, and then like the third year I'm thinking about lighting and dynamics and stuff like that, different ways of shading in 2-dimensional to make it look 3-dimensional.
Right.
Because when you draw with inks, there's no gradient of color. Right, so with pencils you can do the smudge, and you can go from dark, and then it can just
you can create a value scale with with pencils,
value
right?
scale.
Not
with inks,
so much with black and
with
white
inks.
No.
You can't do it. In order to do it with inks, you have to use hash lines, and hash lines don't exist in nature. Like this shadow on my shirt, there's no hash lines on it. It's a gradient, or it's just a solid color. Like hash lines don't exist. Gradients exist in nature, but not hash lines. So you got to figure out a way.
Let me throw this at you. In manga, they do use halftone screens. You know what those are? Like the small little dots. It kind of looks like if you were to look at a newspaper really close, and you would see like the separation of the dots. Manga uses the halftone screens to create the shading, without having to do brush work.
Yeah, that's a cool.
There's other ways of being able to do it. Is basically what I'm saying. It's like there's other creative ways of doing that.
Yeah, sure. That's a cool way of doing it, using dots and stuff like that. I'm not saying no to that. It's just it's not what I'm looking. It's not the look or style I'm going for.
Okay.
But
are you
at the
going
same
for
time,
like the mid '90s style, the
Mark
that kind of
Silvestri,
thing? Yeah.
the Jim Lee look and stuff like that? Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm just constantly in this sketchbook, this small A5 size sketchbook. I'm just constantly every day. I'm just like doodling and drawing in it, and I'm just constantly like putting stuff in it, just using pencils and inks and stuff. And I'm just constantly, as much as possible, just trying to get stuff on the page and learn something new every day, right?
Yep.
So that's my plan, and I really want that plan. Not really want, but I am going to incorporate that plan and this whole artistic journey that I'm on. I want the backbone of it to be the fountain pen. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to use the micron pens. I don't want to use brush pens. I'll use like brush pens in order to color big areas. So I'm not sitting there with a fountain pen coloring in, a big, strong black area, right? But I want to ink with fountain pens, and I want that to be my primary thing. And I want to get to a level that when I was 16 that I wanted to be at, right? I want to be at the level of like Crease. I won't get there, but it doesn't matter. I'm always like, listen, I used to fight. I wanted to be at the level of George St. Pierre. Never got there. But I always tried until it was smarter to stop, right?
But see, the thing about art is that you don't necessarily get to a level of proficiency where you could say, "Oh, I'm so much better than so and so," or "So and so is so much better." I mean, we could obviously say that both of us, since we're not professional comic book artists, and Kreese is,
right,
that he's a way better than us. Like, you know, but like when it comes to art, though, just being able to express yourself through lines and drawing and thing is that it's more about how you can best express yourself and to be your authentic self, and then to maybe just capture the world around you in the way that you see it,
right,
or what's going on in your head, and be able to translate it onto the page, and then look at it and say, you know what, that actually looks better than what I had in my imagination. That's really like where the key of success is there for you.
You know what it is also for me that I want to have a style that is my own, because right now, since I'm learning, I'm emulating everything. I'll see something and then I'll try to emulate it, or I'll start a picture that I'm drawing, and then I realize that as I'm drawing it, it's not exactly what I had in my stupid little pea-sized brain. It turned into something else. You know what I mean?
And imitation's like the best way to get started, even with like writing and stuff. Is just imitate the things that inspire you and make you feel excited to come back to it and practice, and be able to pick apart the things that work well, that you like about the drawings that you see and you're imitating. And then realize also too is like, look at bad stuff that you don't like, and you're like, why do I not like this? It's like, well, this one draws it this way where all the shapes are like this, and I don't like the kind of the style of it, but I like this one better because so and so you start to kind of pick apart the reasons, and that's how you're going to be able to find your own style, because you start to see preferences of what you like versus what you don't like, just like what you would with collecting pens. It's like you kind of adapt to your own personal style by trying on different things.
Yeah, that's a very insightful thing to hear. I mean, you went to art school, so I know you've been very busy all week, and I've been trying to like reach out to you because I had like art questions and stuff like that.
You have art questions. Go ahead, shoot. What's your art
question? All right,
questions?
so my art question is like, when you were learning to draw,
okay,
because I see a lot of online stuff. Like I bought this pencil. It's a Mont Blanc classic. It's basically a 144 version of a pencil, and I got it in Paris. But then I'm watching online, and I see all these guys, they have like tape, so like the grip of their pencil is literally like an inch thick.
Right.
You know, what did you do with pencils when you were in art school? Did you do that? Is there a reason for that? Is there
do I have any of them here? No, you know, I gave my pencil box to my daughter because she's into doing a lot of, you know, drawing and stuff now. She likes painting on in school. She'll draw on her hand, like she'll draw these really awesome looking tattoos and stuff. That's besides the point. So no, my pencils just were the regular wood case pencils, and I developed a callus on my middle finger, on the left side of my middle finger, because I used to hold the pencil really tight, especially the number
here.
2.
Right here.
So like I would hold that really tight, and you would just, you know, start to wear on it so much during the day that it would start to kind of swell up and develop that callus that's on there. But it's gone now, but you know, that's how it was. But I didn't modify them at all. I just usually would just draw with them as they were.
Yeah, so these pros, they do that. They modify their pencil so that the middle of the grip of it is like literally like holding.
That makes
something
sense. Yeah, it's more
but why does
comfortable to do it that way?
Why? But the thing is, like, I didn't do that. I'm not going to do it to this pencil, right?
No,
because
that
but
just
if
seems silly.
Right, but I have other pencils. I have the Graph 1000. I have the Retro 50. I'm not going to do it to my Retro 51s. But the point is, if I did it, I'd only do it because I saw someone else do it, and I have no idea why it's done. You know what I mean? And then also, there's the differences, and I should have looked this up myself, but every time I have a chance to look something up, I look up something else, anatomy related, or, you know, what's the difference between the B's of the pencils, right? So, like, I remember Kreese was talking about it.
So I actually wrote, there's an article on Goldspot about selecting your pencil lead size or lead thickness and things like that. There's because I have known this from my time as developing as a student of the arts, let's say.
Right.
So there's a scale. Think of it as like an integer scale. On the one hand, you have like -4, and on the other hand, you have +4. And right in the middle is what? F, I would say. There's an F lead, and it's kind of like right in the middle of both. The H is the hard stuff. So H would be like, the negative side of the integer scale. And the higher the number of the H, the harder the lead is, and the lighter your stroke is with that pencil lead. Okay. So it would take a lot of pressure to make a dark mark with, let's say, a 6H lead.
Okay.
And
so
I think
6H
it pretty much
is the
gets
lightest.
up to, like, I think it gets up to 8 or 10 possibly. So it's like 8 lead. It's a very, very hard lead that it's really meant for very light underdrawings. So if you really don't want to have to erase a lot, or you just want to make a very light lines on your paper, then go that very far, like 7H, 8H, whatever. But then on the opposite end of the scale, you have the Bs. So if you go with, let's say, an 8B, that's a really soft lead. So that,
it's like lipstick.
Yeah, basically it will paint the paper a very dark mark without having to put much pressure on it.
What's an HB lead then?
It's kind of like right in the middle, like I said, like an F lead. Like it's just right in that middle, and that's It's typically, I think most standard pencils are typically that 2B, so it's kind of a little bit on the softer side. So, but
That's what I use.
they range anywhere from that. But it's really meant for if you're doing a lot of pencil work, like if you're doing pencil portraits and you want to do that gradient effect where you're blending and you're creating that feeling of chiaroscuro, which is that Rembrandt technique that kind of creates shadows and makes the image almost kind of seem like it's shadowed very heavily, then that's what you would want to do. But if you're just doing the line work to then ink it right afterwards, you might want to stick with doing, let's say, like a let's say 2H or a 4H, because then you would have the light lines that would just basically suggest where you're going to put the ink later, because the finished piece is going to be in ink. So you don't really have to really concern yourself about, well, how's it going to look in pencil? It's really, you're just going to basically outline it so that then you could go back in and ink, and then ink all the areas that need to be inked.
That's
kind of like you're creating a tracing for yourself to go back over with the ink.
Yeah. So as much as I am ADHD, I took all that in, and I'm actually going to now go on Amazon. I'm going to buy different pencil lead.
They usually come in sets. Like if you get like a Derwent set or something like that, there's sets of them that they have like the whole H set or the whole B set, and they have them in different grades.
No, more shit that I'm gonna buy, unless you have it at Goldspot. Then I'll get it from Goldspot.
No, that's not something like arts and craft stuff is not something that is Goldspot's forte.
Okay.
At one point we did have like Prismacolor, and then Caran d'Ache had some pencil, some art pencils and stuff, but those tend to be pretty expensive, and to be quite honest, you could get away with doing some pretty good drawings with just the standard stuff you could get from like Michael's or Hobby Lobby, Hobby Shop, that sort of thing.
Right. I hear you. Well, listen, that was an interesting discussion. We're gonna wrap this up. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to episode number 177. Now, there was a winner for the 24 pen case by Girologio. I announced it on YouTube because the winner was selected from YouTube, but I haven't heard from him. So I'm going to give it a couple more weeks, and then I'm going to go ahead and redo it. And also...
or just keep it for yourself.
No, I'm not going to do that. I feel like that's unethical. But we also have a winner from Instagram, and the Instagram winner for the Crease art, and I haven't mailed it out, and I reached out to him and let him know that I've just been very busy, is an awesome dude. His name is Crispy on Instagram. Congratulations, you're going to get the Crease art bust of Captain America. And with that said, I want to thank everybody for joining us. Thanks again. This was episode number 177. Make sure you check out our sponsors, Goldspot Pens and Luxury Brands of America, specifically the Benu pen coming out in commemoration of Halloween. Love you guys. Be well. Be safe.
Stay inky.